If you know or suspect that you may have PMDD, but you're looking for more natural treatment options, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Jess, I'm a clinical nutritionist, and today we're talking all about natural and alternative therapies for the treatment, management, and maybe even healing of premenstrual dysphoric disorder. If you've come across this video and need more of a background on PMDD, then check out this video here where I go over symptoms, etiology, etc. But this video is really focused on natural treatments that have shown positive clinical outcomes. So let's get into it. So you may be aware, but conventional treatment for PMDD is often SSRIs because it is considered a mental health depressive disorder. Additionally, there might be something like birth control recommended to try and prevent the fluctuation of hormones that cause symptoms for females with PMDD. The hard truth on this is that females are actually meant to have fluctuating hormones throughout the month. So with these natural therapies, we're not trying to solve that. What we're actually trying to do is build our resiliency to these hormonal shifts utilizing some natural therapies. So then we can hopefully move down the ladder from PMDD into regular PMS territory, which that would be a huge improvement for some people that I know really struggle with this. Yes, you'll likely still experience fluctuating hormones throughout the month because we as females are really kind of like a different person each week depending upon what's going on with our hormones, but it shouldn't be something that's debilitating. It should be something where we're able to learn how to live in the flow and be the best versions of ourselves throughout each week and throughout the month. So first, we're of course going to talk about dietary interventions for PMDD. We're then going to talk about some supplements that have shown to have some clinical efficacy in managing, treating symptoms. And then lastly, we're going to talk about some really cool lifestyle stress biohacks that you can additionally incorporate for PMDD. So first, let's talk about the diet. We don't have to use the word diet. We could say, let's talk about the foods that we eat on a daily or regular basis. But diet plays a very important role in one, reducing the inflammation that can be happening for women with PMDD. And then also two, it's really important because diet plays a huge role in the availability of tryptophan, which has shown to be depleted when women are having PMDD symptoms. Tryptophan is the building block for serotonin, a very important neurotransmitter that's involved in some of the mood fluctuations with PMDD. So we want to make sure that we're getting adequate levels of tryptophan in our diet. How do we do this? The two essential things to ensure that we're getting adequate amounts of tryptophan in our diet is making sure that we are getting adequate amounts of first protein, and then second, that we're getting adequate amounts of the right form of carbohydrates. So we mainly find tryptophan in protein-rich foods, so think like meats, poultry, fish. These foods are really high in tryptophan, and a lot of people aren't even meeting their adequate protein needs for essentially like laying in bed all around all day, let alone meeting their needs to support something like neurotransmitter synthesis. Since women with PMDD may be more susceptible to either just having lower levels because of genetic variants, or maybe just because having lower levels do cause these symptoms, we definitely want to make sure that we're getting adequate protein. I like to have people shoot for like a minimum of 100 grams of protein a day. So carbohydrates do this kind of cool thing where they actually help tryptophan cross the blood-brain barrier. And what that really means is that it helps tryptophan become available to us to utilize in the body. So we want to make sure that we're getting adequate levels of carbohydrates. So the thing about carbohydrates is that we want to focus on the right carbohydrates, okay? So these need to be complex, slow burning carbohydrates from whole food sources. processed foods, high glycemic foods from, basically like sugar, pastas, breads, all of those things, those are gonna spike our blood sugar. That's not gonna lead to a happy mood. So we want these carbohydrates to be ones that are gonna keep our glucose in check and then can also still help with that tryptophan availability. So good examples of this would be like root vegetables, carrots, beets, rutabagas, maybe even some legumes if you do okay with those. Some fruit would be okay too, but we really just want to make sure, once again, these aren't processed carbohydrates, these are whole foods carbohydrates. Consumption of vitamin B rich foods, especially vitamin B6, is important because it plays such a huge role in serotonin synthesis. These foods include lean meats, fish, pistachios, sunflower seeds, beans, and avocados. Ensuring adequate levels of the minerals calcium and magnesium have also been shown to be incredibly important when managing both PMS and PMD symptoms, and vitamin D plays a really important role in this symptom management as well. We want to also include omega-3 fatty acids in our diet for two reasons. One, omega-3 fatty acids will reduce inflammation, and there is an inflammatory component that generally goes along with PMDD. And two, omega-3 fatty acids actually support neurotransmitter synthesis. So we really want our diet to be rich in omega-3 fats, which we can get from eating things like seafood. And if we don't happen to eat fish, then we can always supplement with something like a fish oil or an algae supplement. And lastly, we want to reduce sugar, food additives, and caffeine. These are three things that have shown to be triggers for both PMS, but particularly PMDD symptoms. All of these foods actually reduce GABA, which is our calming and inhibitory neurotransmitter. And when we have a reduction in GABA in our body and in our brain, then that's going to increase the severity of the PMD symptoms that we may be experiencing at the time. When it comes to supplements, there are a lot of supplements that could potentially help with PMDD, and I would recommend that you check out other videos on my channel because this channel is really focused on nutritional strategies for better mental health, and a lot of the things that I talk about that are going to improve your mental health will also likely improve your PMDD symptoms. But that being said, there are a few specific supplements that I do really want to mention for PMDD. It's really important to give the disclaimer and reminder that these supplements I'm going to talk about are an alternative to SSRIs. These are things that you absolutely would not want to take if you are on an SSRI. So the first one is 5-HTP. 5-HTP is a chemical precursor to serotonin produced from the amino acid L-Tryptophan. It's known for its effectiveness in treating serotonin-mediated depressive symptoms. Some people might find 5-HTP too stimulating, and if that's the case, you might actually be better off just taking L-Tryptophan that then will convert into 5-HTP and then to serotonin. While there is just one study that has looked at 5-HTP as a mechanism for treatment of PMDD, and we certainly need more, the easily accessible supplement may serve as an alternative to SSRIs. Females with PMDD may additionally benefit from taking GABA either as a supplement or taking a supplement that increases GABA itself. I mentioned supplements that increase GABA because GABA also doesn't work for everyone. It's not very well known to cross the blood-brain barrier, so sometimes it's actually more effective to take a natural supplement that naturally increases level of GABA. And there are lots of supplements that do this. Some of my favorite ones are lemon balm, L-theanine, and various forms of magnesium. I actually have a whole video on some of these supplements that help increase GABA, and you can check that out. I will leave it in the description below and link it in the card here above. And the last supplement that I really want to talk about is Inositol, otherwise known as Inositol. Inositol is a naturally occurring carbohydrate, essentially a form of sugar that's abundant in the brain and other tissues in our body. This supplement is used for both metabolic and mental health disorders. But I wanted to talk to you today about inositol because when I was doing my research on inositol for anxiety and panic disorders, I actually came across inositol being studied specifically for PMDD, which is super cool. Those with PMDD tend to respond to inositol quite well. Over the course of 6 menstrual cycles, women with PMDD supplemented with 12 grams of inositol daily, and they experienced a significant reduction in their symptoms of dysphoria and depression. Research is concluding that they were able to clearly prove the efficacy of inositol in PMDD or for PMDD. Another thing that's super cool about inositol is that it actually doesn't really have a lot of side effects, and it's been studied as an intervention for mental health alongside conventional psychiatric medications. So unlike tryptophan and 5-HTP, this is something that you're more likely to be able to take if you are on something like an SSRI or another psychiatric med. Of course, always want to check with your doctor on that one. So those are the supplemental interventions I would start with, and I want to quickly go over some lifestyle factors that may be helpful as well. So because there does seem to be an inflammatory component to PMDD, reducing stress, getting a good night's sleep, all the things that you would expect are super helpful. So meditation, yoga, breath work have all been suggested for the treatment and management of PMDD along with diet. But in addition to this, there is some really cool research that shows that PMDD often overlaps with SAD, which is seasonal affective disorder, due to a genetic susceptibility, and that PMDD is often worse when struggling with seasonal affective disorder. So what does this mean? It means that women with PMDD can have significant improvements in their mood when they work on realigning their natural circadian rhythms and are really cognizant about their sleep-wake cycle. You can actually work on realigning your circadian rhythms in a lot of ways, some of which are just very tiny shifts but make a huge difference. So if that's something that interests you, then check out my upcoming video that's going to be all about circadian rhythms, how circadian rhythms affect your mental health, and some simple things that you can do to start realigning them.